So I sent an email out this morning, and I apologize for forgetting this over the weekend. I actually posted to this class's playlist on YouTube, I think it was last Tuesday, and didn't tell you. The lecture from my previous class, which went quite a bit farther than you guys have gone. So I posted a link to that today, because I'd like to pick up where that one ends. So just if you can, watch some of that on your own. You don't have to watch the whole thing, because it picks up, it goes from the end of, it goes from in memoriam to the Ghoul in Pyjamas around page 102. We discussed in memoriam through the end of Dursley's departing. So it only, the part you'd need to watch is the Seven Potters 2, that part in the Ghoul in Pyjamas, which actually, even though that is only 45 pages, I'll be honest, it's probably about an hour for some reason. So I want to pick up around page 102. Boy, and I really want to talk about this, but it's on the video, so I won't. 102, Hermione explains about Horcruxes. And Ron asks, isn't there any way to fix yourself after you've done a Horcrux? That is, to repair yourself. Because when you do it, see, I'm doing it anyways. When you do a Horcrux, you have to kill somebody, and that tears your soul in two. Okay? So watch that part to get all that. Next page. Ron asks, if we wreck the thing it lives in, that is, the Horcrux is the divided piece of soul. Let's say I put a Horcrux part of myself into this bottle. Ron, if we wreck the thing it lives in, if I poke a hole in this bottle, why can't the bit of soul in it just go and live in something else? Okay? Rational, logical question. Hermione. Because a Horcrux is the complete opposite of a human being. Okay? So what does she mean by that? Because Ron and Harry, right over their heads. They don't have a clue what she's talking about. What do you mean it's the complete opposite? So she says, if I picked up a sword right now, Ron, and ran you through with it, I wouldn't damage your soul at all. Ron doesn't find that very comforting, which would be a real comfort to me, I'm sure. Harry laughs. Ron made a funny. Hermione, it should be. That is, it should be very comforting to you, Ron. Why? The point is, whatever happens to your body, your soul will survive untouched. But it's the other way around with a Horcrux. Okay? Fragment of soul inside it depends on its container, its enchanted body for survival. It can't exist without it. Okay? So notice, a Horcrux is the exact opposite, she says, of a human being. All right? Now we have to spend a few minutes to kind of unpack what Rowling is suggesting. So, if the Horcrux can't survive without its enchanted container, okay, you damage the container, and the Horcrux, the bit of soul that's in it, dissolves, disappears, goes away, whatever terminology you want to use. And that's the exact opposite of a human being. Then what really, not just the words she has on the page, but what really is a human being? Body, soul, together. You kill the body, the soul what? It still lives. Okay? So the Horcrux, enchanted container, Horcrux, you do this, kill the enchanted container, and they both go. Why is this significant? What is the pretext of this whole kind of conversation? Or the subtext, the ground, the foundation of it? What must one accept as a reality before you can even enter into this conversation.
That there's an afterlife, that you have a soul.
That there's a soul and it goes on after death. That's it. We're not talking about where it goes or anything like that. And Rowling never suggests anything like that. All right? But it's the idea that the soul exists separate from the body that contains it, and that the soul will go on living. That is the complete opposite of the Horcrux idea, which is the soul in the body dies when the body does. Okay? Philip Pullman, major British author, last 20, 30 years, wrote a series. He began writing this late 90s, early 2000s, called his Dark Materials. It's a trilogy. The first book is The Golden Compass, also called Northern Lights. The second book is The Amber Spyglass, and the third book is The Subtle Knife. Okay? When that first book came out, I'm pretty sure I was editing a journal again, because I got sent what's called a galley copy. Didn't have regular binding like this, just had a cardboard cover. Okay? I don't remember how I got it. And I read that thing cover to cover, and I was like, this guy's the next Tolkien. Not the next Rowling. This guy's the next Tolkien. He created such a world that it was entirely believable. That world was Oxford, England, parallel kind of universe. And having been to Oxford many times, I was like, man, this is absolutely wonderful book. Great, okay? I can't praise it high enough. Literally. So I immediately started incorporating it in my fantasy lit courses. A couple of years later, he came out with the second book, Amber Spyglass. Story, capital S, became totally subjugated to ideology. That is, the story no longer mattered. Pullman wanted to push an idea. Okay? Second book. Second book was not nearly as good. I still taught it. But when I was teaching those two books now in my fantasy lit course, I would ask my students, where's he going? Because I did conferences. After the first book, I did a conference in Oxford, was one of the featured speakers, blah, blah. And, one of the things we were talking about is, where's he going? And I kind of had an idea, and I was 100% wrong. Totally wrong. Okay? Second book came out, and I was like, I know where he's going with this. I don't like it. Okay? Third book came out, and it was, I'm not kidding, it was like dogma. Like doctrinal teaching, ideology. You're over there nodding your head. I think you've read them. Okay? And that's because it becomes pure propaganda. What do I mean by that? I'm going to tell you, even if you might want to read the books. It's all about killing God. Why? God's bad. God's evil, Satan's good. His Dark Materials line, it comes from John Milton's Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is all about Paradise Lost. The fall of Adam and Eve, the angels in heaven, Satan wanting to rule in hell because he doesn't want to serve in heaven. And Pullman gave a lot of interviews, and he talked about, I think Satan was in the right, God's in the wrong. And he writes this book, again, according to interviews, because he wants to counter not Milton's Paradise Lost, he wants to counter C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, which are espousing Christian doctrine. Okay? Here's the big reveal, so to speak. Pullman doesn't believe in, notice my terminology, because it has an awful lot to do with this book. Okay? Pullman doesn't believe in a soul separate from the body. You die, this dies, then whatever is speaking, whatever is either up here or in here or somewhere, dies too. It just dissolves. And there's no consciousness, whatever terminology you want to use, that lives on. So, part of that mentality, this part doesn't come through in Pullman, but it comes through in earlier writers of the 20th century, part of that mentality, some of that mentality says, because old TV commercials from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, because you only go around once, that is, on this floating ball in space, go for the gusto, grab all you can, he who dies with the most toys wins, you know, fill in whatever motto, slogan you want, all right? So the third book is literally about killing God, because God's the baddie. And it frees everybody to live as they want to live until they die, and then they just, you know, dissipate in the future. That's the Horcrux mindset. Or that's essentially what Rowling does with the idea of the Horcrux. Kill the body, the soul and everything dissipates. Okay? I think she intends for us to read it that way, because this is written after, I'm pretty sure, The Subtle Knife, which is the third book in his trilogy. Okay? So, kill the body, the soul goes on. What's Voldemort afraid of?
Dying.
Why? Is it because he doesn't want his consciousness, his essence or whatever, to just, you know, become one with the rest of the universe in terms of molecules and ooons and gluons and all those things? Could be. Why else could it? I mean, that's one possibility. What's another one?
We don't know what happens after death.
Bingo. You can stop right there. We don't know what happens after death. I mean, we might believe we know, but what don't we have? We don't have truth. We don't have knowledge about it. We have written accounts that people have said, I died, I saw a great light, a tunnel, I heard voices, blah, blah, and then they come back. But that was what? That was that person's experience. Does that mean that's going to be mine? No. Hamlet calls it the undiscovered country from whose bourne no one returns. Okay? So, you've got those two ideas being juxtaposed. The soul is meant to be what? We've been told. Whole, entire. And I think, for me, that harkens back in this course to Gandalf talking about Gollum, wanting him to find his cure, to be made whole before his death. And you jump to the end of The Lord of the Rings, and you have Frodo saying what? Don't strike Saruman, in the hope he can find his cure again. Okay? So, Harry says, you know, that diary kind of died when I stamped it. Really? Kind of died? What did he see? Okay, ink coming out. But what did he see happen to the Tom Riddle that he had been talking to? He just fades. I mean, he writhes because he doesn't want to die. Okay? So, he goes on and explains, you know, what happened to Ginny and all this kind of stuff. So Hermione explains, while the magical container, this thing, is still intact, the bit of soul inside it can flit in and out of someone. Okay? Because Ron was wondering, wait, you mean that bit of soul that was in the diary was possessing Ginny? Ginny had several instances where she couldn't remember what she was doing. She had entire blocks of hours blanked out. And Hermione says, yes, that bit of soul, if the thing that contains it gets too close to someone, and it's never stated whether that just means physically close or emotionally close, the bit of soul can go out into that person. A thought I had in my first class this morning, never had this thought before, kind of blew me away. So what does that say about Harry? Yeah. Head nodded. Oh. Harry's what? We're jumping in it. We're going to say things that are in the book. Sorry. Harry's a Horcrux. You mean Voldemort put a bit of himself in me? Notice Harry's rephrasing is much more accurate than Dumbledore's. He transferred some of his powers. So if Harry's a Horcrux and he has a bit of Dumbledore in him, then what happens if Harry gets too close to someone? Sorry, didn't mean to make you feel awkward. Can that bit of soul flip off into that other person? I don't know.
Do you think like the protection of his mother is stopping that?
I don't know. That's why when the idea came to me, I was like, whoa. Because if it can, yes?
What about his like strength of like will? Maybe that keeps it from leaving him because of his will. Because he throws off who Harry is.
Could be. Think of book 5 for a moment. Don't have time for this. Think of book 5 for a moment. What must Harry learn to do in book 5? We're told it several times. McGonagall actually uses the word after his first instruction by Dolores Jane Umbridge, when he gets his first attention. Potter, you must learn to master yourself. He has to learn self-control. Before that point, what's he doing? I'm like, come on, Dudley. Come on. You and your gang, come down here. Come on. Put a circle around. Just give me a reason. But Dudley doesn't, right? The reason I brought that up is, could that be an explanation for Harry's relationship with Dudley? If he got a bit of Voldemort in him, and he gets too close to Dudley, can that bit of Voldemort plop? And then, what have we been told Dudley and his gang are always doing to Harry? First book. Not as much in the remaining books. Why are Harry's glasses always broken? Because he's always getting beat up. Okay? I don't know. It's just a theory. I need to do a lot more. Because that could explain some things. Could explain some things about the Dursleys also. Okay? So, and then she says, I mean close emotionally. And that may be the killer to the idea. There's a problem though. They're going to get the locket, right? What do they do with the locket? What are you meant to do with a locket? You carry a locket in your back pocket.
No, you wear
You're
it.
stupid. You wear it. You put it on a chain around your neck so it's close to your chest. They wear it so it's under the shirt usually. Okay? But does that mean they have an emotional connection with the locket? Like, oh, this belonged to R.A.B. I miss him greatly, even though they never knew him. I'm not sure. Okay? So they start talking about, destroying Horcruxes and such. We're going to skip a bunch. Will of Albus Dumbledore. All right? So, a couple pages in. Let him go, probably around 113 or so. Mrs. Weasley gives Harry a birthday present. What is it? It's a pocket watch, okay? A lot of you on the quiz put down wristwatch. I accepted it for that, but it's a pocket watch. If it shows up on the final, pocket watch is the correct response. Or if you just put watch, that's fine. Why? Because a wristwatch doesn't fit kind of some of what's talked about. Pocket watch, you wear on a chain, traditionally, British culture, you wear on a chain, and you don't necessarily wear it in a jeans pocket. You wear it in what they call a waistcoat, or waistcoat, is how Americans pronounce it, a vest, okay? That has a pocket here and a pocket here. You put the watch in one pocket, you have the chain go over, and it has a hook, and it goes to the other. So you just simply pull it in, look at it, etc. Okay? It's traditional to give a wizard a watch when he comes of age, Mrs. Weasley says. I'm afraid that one isn't new like Ron's. It was actually my brother Fabian's. He wasn't terribly careful with his possessions. It's a bit dented on the back. But, and Harry doesn't let her finish. He runs up and gives her a big hug. Okay? Couple things. Why the name drop? She mentions her brother Fabian. Where else in the book, meaning all 7, Where else in the series have we heard the name Fabian? I know, that's real nitpicky. How'd you like that on a quiz? Where? Give me the page number. Book 5.
When they're talking about all the old members of the Order of the Phoenix.
Book 5. Moody pulls out the photograph. He wants to cheer Harry up. Does just the opposite. And he shows him there's Fabian and Gideon Pruitt in the original Order of the Phoenix. Both dead. Put up a good fight because only bits of them were ever found. Okay? Notice what Molly said about the watch. He didn't take care of his things. It's dented on the back. Might there be another reason? Might this be something that was found with the bits? I don't know. Sheer speculation. I kind of think so, though. It fits, okay? So Hermione, gives Harry a present. Ginny comes in and gives Harry a present. Ron's like, oh, stop that, Skip a bunch. Scrimger comes in. Lost. So 120, 21. Around 122, 23. And he tells them about Dumbledore's will. All right? to Ron. He says, to Ronald Bilious Weasley, I leave my deluminator. Someone had on the quiz, I don't know if it was this class or my first class, the illuminator. Those are almost opposites. So couldn't give credit for that. In the hope that he will remember me when he uses it. What else is that called in book 1? His putter outer. Dumbledore, magically appears at the corner of Privet Drive. McGonagall's sitting there over there on the fence as a cat, and he does this. He pulls this thing out and he goes, a ball of light leaves the lamp, and he does it 12 times, takes all the lamp light out. Okay? Look at Ron's middle name, Bilious, of bile. Bile is one of the 4 medieval humors. That is, an essence that is in the body that it was thought accounted for people's emotional well-being and make up their personalities, all those kinds of things. Bile, phlegm is another one, okay? Bile means if you're full of bile, you're angry, you're hot-headed. What color are all the Weasleys' hair?
Red.
You know the popular notion about redheads? Fiery, short-fused, kind of applies to Ron, okay? So, Scrimger says, valuable object, Dumbledore's own make. Dumbledore invented it. Why would he give it to you? Ron's like, I don't know. And we don't know until the Silver Doe chapter, okay? To Granger, to Miss Hermione Jean Granger. I leave my copy of the Tales of Beetle the Bard, okay? Another thing, a lot of people on the quiz really butchered this. The tale of Beetle and the Bard, that would be 2 different people. Beetle the Bard means Beetle the singer, Beetle the tale teller, Beetle the fairy tale teller, things like that, okay? So Beetle the Bard. In the hope that she will find it entertaining and instructive. Horace, 1st century Roman author, poet, said the purpose of literature is to teach and delight. That is, literature should have a moral component, like the old Greek Aesop's fairy tales, every one of which ended with, I don't know if you guys ever read I remember looking at library copies in grade school, go and check out that from the thing, and everyone would end with the moral, where you find out the meaning of the story, okay? That's the teaching part. But Horace said, you gotta have this part first. If it's not delightful, if it's not appealing, if it doesn't grab your attention, all the teaching in the world is not gonna do any good. Because if it's all teaching, what are most people gonna do? They're not gonna read it, they're gonna stop reading it. Ergo, my comment, one of the ergos about the comment about Philip Pullman's books. The first book, I would still read that. It's a great book. I mean, Read it. It's really, really good. But the second two are just, okay? Because he lets his ideology entirely take over. Right? Rowling never lets ideology take over. Notice, even though she said in that one interview, I can't answer your question about how my Christian beliefs inform my work, because that would give away the ending. You can get it to the end of the book and go, what did she mean by that? She never preaches Jesus. She never preaches Christianity, whether hard-ass Christianity or soft namby-pamby. Can't we all just get along? We're all on the same path and journey together, and Jesus will just all welcome us. She doesn't do any of that. All she does, ultimately, is emphasize these through all seven, but specifically in book 7. We're going to get to it shortly. All right? So he asks, why would he give you that? And Hermione's like, duh. I don't know, because I like books. Okay? To Harry, I leave the snitch he caught in the first Quidditch match at Hogwarts. On the quiz, if you just put a golden snitch or the snitch, I accepted it. If the question or a similar one shows up on the final, honestly, I don't remember if it's there. And the final's already posted. Your response needs to be the golden snitch Harry caught in his first Quidditch match. I mean, you got to have all of that, all right? Because of how important it is. So, why? Harry, I don't know. You think this is mere symbolic keepsake? I don't know. Okay? Hermione, I don't know. Can't be any reference to the fact that Harry's a great seeker, We haven't talked at all, I don't think, about Harry being a seeker. I mean, I know we did in the first book when McGonagall, puts him on the team and such. Is he a seeker only because of Quidditch? Why are you shaking your head?
I would say he's probably good at finding guys.
Okay. But what's he finding? Or what is he seeking? What is Harry seeking?
Wasn't his dad a seeker?
Louder?
Wasn't his dad a seeker?
His dad was a seeker also. Okay. Not first year. Harry one-ups him. Don't we see Harry seeking all throughout the books? I mean, in one sense, these books are fantasy young adult detective fiction. And Harry's the detective. Okay, he's the Hercule Poirot, he's the people in all the various, detective fiction things. But in all of those instances, he's really seeking physical things, right? The Philosopher's Stone, the Chamber of Secrets, who really is Sirius Black, all that stuff. That's not what Harry's seeking. What's Harry really seeking? Okay? Just let that sit. So, Scrimgeour explains how a snitch works. He says it carries an enchantment that can identify the first human to lay hands on it. It will remember your touch, Potter. Cursed me at Dumbledore, who had prodigious magical skill. Really? Dumbledore? Whatever his other faults might have enchanted this snitch, so it will only open for you. So he hands it to Harry, and Harry's like, it's not doing anything. He expects it to do something, right? And then he tells him, Dumbledore left you something else. The sword of Godric Gryffindor. But he says, that's an important historical artifact, and as such it belongs, and Hermione cuts him off. What was he going to say? Meaning, probably that's probably true, but if it belongs at the Ministry of Magic, then who does it ultimately really belong to?
The Minister of Magic.
No, I don't think so. All of us. That is all of us witches and wizards in Great Britain. It's a national treasure. Yeah, you can't give this to one person. Really? It'd be like somebody digging up Excalibur today and going, mine. Because you can bet everything you have. England would go, no. If there's an Excalibur and you find it, Well, they have this whole, process. Anything you find, you have to report to the government. So the government can determine who owns it. Whether you do, who found it, the person whose land you found it on, or the government, okay? You have to have what's called a coroner's inquest. So, Hermione, it belongs to Harry. It chose him. He was the one who found it. It came to him out of the sorting hat. Where was the sword before it popped on Harry's head in the Chamber of Secrets? Was it? We're not told that. We're not told where the sword was before then. Scrimgeour says, reliable historical sources tell us that it appears to people who are worthy of the sword of Godric Gryffindor at various points in history. In that sense, it's kind of like Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, or only the worthy can really lift it, which does turn out to be Captain America, not just Thor. A hell of a lot of other people, I think. So maybe not so worthy. Okay. So, Harry jokes, it looked nice on my wall. He says, this isn't anything to joke about. You're he who must not be named. And Harry replies. And Harry finishes and says, has anyone ever tried sticking a sword in Voldemort? After Hermione's conversation earlier, you kind of wonder, had anybody? And Harry finishes his conversation. People are dying. I was nearly one of them. Voldemort chased me across 3 counties. He killed Mad-Eye Moody. But there's... This isn't there. Okay. Jump ahead just a moment. The wedding. How are Harry, Ron, and Hermione caught at Tottenham Court Road? In the diner?
They say Voldemort's name.
Hermione says Voldemort's name. And we learn what? Voldemort has a spell, a trace around his name. You say his name. Harry just said Voldemort's name twice. How come nothing happens?
Because don't they have that protection spell around the burrow?
Could be.
What do you think
Well,
is,
Hestia said it too.
Or could it be that
because the ministry is still intact?
it's not yet been done? Because that happens, that's got to be it. That happens after the ministry falls. Good catch. Because I just saw that and I thought,
And Hestia says it when she picks up Harry from the Dursleys. She says Voldemort's name.
yes, she does. Okay? So, he goes on and says, he killed Mad-Eye Moody, but there's been no word about that, any of that from the ministry, has there? You still expect us to cooperate with you? How would the ministry release word of that? Would there be a communique directly from the ministry? Doesn't sound like it based on what we've seen in the earlier books. How does the ministry communicate to the people?
The Daily Prophet.
The Daily Prophet is what? Therefore.
Their main news source.
Okay, I'm looking for something a little more dark, negative, pejorative. You could call it the daily propaganda. I mean, we really saw that in book 5, right? I mean, they're pulling all the, okay? So they go back and forth. Scrimgeour doesn't like something Harry says. He touches him with his lit wand, which is described as like a cigarette. Burns a hole in his t-shirt. You stick a cigarette into somebody's skin and you hold it there long enough, what's it gonna do? And leave a scar. Okay? Torture? Terrorism? Time you learn some respect. Harry, it's time you earned it. Yeah, slam. Okay? And then Harry says, I don't like your methods, minister. Now, let's be fair. Was Dolores Jane Umbridge Scrimgeour's hag?
No.
Heck, no, she was Fudge's idea. Kind of get the impression Scrimgeour wasn't all that against it. Okay? So, he leaves. Harry, Ron, and Hermione keep talking. Harry takes the snitch, and he remembers. I didn't catch it. That's why I didn't do anything when he touched it. He nearly swallowed it. And he puts it to his lips. And writing magically appears like one ring to rule them all, you know. I open at the close. Close of what? Close of day, close of the store. No idea, okay? Hermione, never heard of the Tales of Beedle the Bard. Why not?
Because she's a muggle born.
She's a muggle born. Why else? What kind of tales are these? Have any of you read the Tales of Beedle the Bard little booklet? Okay, yeah, I have. A couple of times. It's not that good. And by the way, the tale that is going to be told of the three brothers, Rowling rips that off. It is Pardoner's Tale and Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. It's some slight modifications. Okay. So, the wedding, chapter 8. Who do we meet within 3 pages?
Aunt Marge?
She comes later. It's not Aunt Marge.
What is?
Aunt Muriel. Notice A-M, A-M, because Auntie Muriel is the Aunt Marge of the Wizarding World. Drunken cow. Take that back. I shouldn't say that, because she's thin, if I remember correctly. Xenophilius Lovegood. Luna's dead. Okay? You know, question on the quiz asked, you know, name the person who wears the thing that sets Crumb off or something like that. And several people put Luna's dead. I don't know if it was in this class. And I put name. Luna's dead is not the name. Anyways, xenophilia. Where the hell do you get a name like that? Well, what's it mean? Xenophilius, and notice P-H-I-L-I-U-S and not F-I-L-I-U-S. This is Latin. This is Greek. This is Greek. Okay? Xeno. What is a xenophobe?
Someone who doesn't like strange things.
Someone who doesn't, okay, maybe strange things.
The unknown.
If someone is xenophobic, regular everyday conversation today, or you read something in the newspaper, you find out, oh, you know, oh, let me pick an example of something that, you know, just happened over Thanksgiving weekend. I know nothing about this guy other than the little bit I read. Nick Fuentes. He's some crazy right winger. Take that back. He's not a right winger. He's a wacko. Because not all right wingers are wacko. You might disagree. He's a xenophobe. So what does that mean?
He has prejudice towards people from other countries.
Xeno means other. Other, foreigner, stranger, alien, unlike me, person. So in one sense, you know, Xeno, because I'm the only one like me, right? Okay? So, xenophobia, fear of others, fear of strangers, fear of aliens, not the, but, you know, undocumented, you know, etc. Okay? All that. It's related, and it should be pronounced actually Xeno, like K-S together. Xeno. I have a student in one of my other classes. Her name is Ksenia. She's from either Russia or Ukraine. Okay? Should be pronounced Xeno. It's related to the word Xenia, another Greek word, that means hospitality. Right? Homer's The Odyssey, and a little bit in the Iliad, is largely about this theme of hospitality. And ultimately it's this. Be careful how you treat strangers, because the strangers might be gods. Literally within the Odyssey. A lot of people meet strangers, and those strangers turn out to be one or other of the gods. Most often, Athena, because she's looking out for her man, Ulysses, Odysseus, all right? So she shows up in different forms in a lot of different cases. St. Paul takes that language and quotes it in the New Testament, okay? And says something about welcoming strangers, lest you're caught entertaining angels unawares. And his idea is sometimes people that you meet that are other are actually angels, and you're kind of being tested, right? So it's this idea of hospitality. So, Filius, love of the strange, love of or strangers, love of the other or others, love of the alien or aliens, love of the foreign or foreigners. Okay? The opposite of the Nick Fuente idea. This is, the Statue of Liberty. Only not holding up a torch, but saying, come. Quoting the poem on the bottom. If it were this, it would be son of. Others, son of strangers, son of aliens, son of foreigners. Notice, in terms of sound, because this sounds exactly the same as that, they both work. Because describe Xenophilius Lovegood. He is about as other and strange as you can get. I mean, he makes Luna look like a straight-laced, conservative, let's say. All right? But that's just his first name. Lovegood. Lovegood. Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, I'm pretty sure, all three of them, talked about the purpose of human existence. And they each essentially said it was to reach, find, achieve, Latin phrase, the summum bonum, the highest good. Did I put up on here, might be thinking of a different class. Did I talk at all about Plato's allegory of the cave? I don't think I did. That was my other class, so I won't. The highest good was the greatest good that could be achieved. It's essentially the divine. All right? So, it wasn't just achieving that, it was loving that. And it's through loving it that you gradually ascend. And you ascend through your actions. You climb what's either variously called the ladder of divine love or the ladder of divine ascent until you become united with God. So how do you love the good? And this is where I think Rowling implies this. I could be entirely wrong. This could just be me and my thought processes reading entirely in. You love the good by loving others. Or loving the other. Because let's say within this classroom, who does the other mean?
Someone other than yourself.
Okay, but think of this classroom as a body. A corporation, so to speak, of individual bodies. Who would the other be for us?
People in other classrooms?
Exactly, people out there. Okay, so how do you achieve the summum bonum? How do you love the good? By loving the other. Those who are outside, those who are not us. Transfer that to the wizarding world. What would be the biggest way to show this?
Accepting muggles.
What does Draco always, previous book, call Dumbledore? Muggle lover. You can't be more other loving within the wizarding world than that. Who else does Dumbledore seemingly, if we read into it, love? Where does he send Hagrid?
To the Giants.
What does Fudge say when Dumbledore gives him his first suggestion at the end of book 4? Send an envoy to the Giants. Are you flipping out of your mind? Why? Because they are totally other. So Xenophilius Lovegood kind of encapsulates this idea of loving the other, loving the strange, etc., etc. Okay? What's he wear? Yellow robe, right? With what on it? Who doesn't like that? Who sees that and gets very incensed? Victor Crumb. Why?
Wasn't it Grindelwald's?
He calls it Grindelwald's mark that was all over Durmstrang, carved in the walls, carved on pillars. What is our equivalent? I have it up here for a reason. It's this. You know, this has literally happened in the last 10 years. I've read, I don't know, probably half dozen accounts. Some grade school kid sitting there, you know, bored because his teacher was wah, 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 wah. And he's just doodling and he draws a swastika. And the kid gets hauled in front of the principal and everything because of this, like, terrorism. He's just drawing something. Okay? But because of Hitler and the Nazis, none of us can ever use this today, right? Let's say Sakara goes into, you know, clothing design. Yeah, great image. Why? Because this sucker's 5,000 years old. Goes back to ancient India. It's a sign of the sun. Okay? It's like a sunburst. Cool. Nice. Everybody likes the sun. I mean, almost nobody doesn't like the sun because it's like not liking life. Okay, so nihilists and suicides. All right. Great image, but we can't use it anymore. It's like the name, like not many Germans today name their children, sons, Adolf. You know, a little echo there. Or Christians name their kids Lucifer. Had a next door neighbor at one point. The guy was a spitting image. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Rock singer Alice Cooper. He would dress up every Halloween as Alice Cooper, and I'm not kidding. You would think Alice Cooper was standing there handing out candy. And the guy had a 8-foot-long python. And he would come out Thanksgiving dressed, makeup and everything, like Alice Cooper with his python around his shoulders, handing out candy stuff to the kiddies. You know, parents are going. Turns out Alice Cooper is a conservative Christian, so it's, you know, kind of interesting there. The guy's snake was named Lucifer. It is a great name. So what's wrong with it?
Associated with the devil.
It's got a slight historical connection with Satan, you know, the adversary. But what does Lucifer mean? It's a beautiful name. It's about the most beautiful name you can name a child. Bearer of light. Oh. Who wouldn't want to be called the bringer of light, you know? I'm going to lighten your life. I'm going to light up your world. Think of all the sappy songs with those kinds of lyrics, right? So, Crumb doesn't like this because it makes him think of, no, Grindelwald. Yeah, they're probably the same. Grindelwald's probably the Wizarding World version of Hitler, because Grindelwald loses in 1945, and Hitler loses in 1945, and you know, etc. So Harry talks quite a bit with Crumb, talk about Gregorich, other stuff, and then we get introduced to Auntie Muriel, and what a delightful woman she is, as Percy would say about Dolores Jane Umbridge. Okay, a few pages in, 143, 144, we hear some of the words of the actual ceremony of the wedding of Bill and Fleur. Gathered here today to celebrate the union of two faithful souls. There it is again. Notice, not the union of two faithful people, not the union of two bodies, okay? The union of two souls. So these souls are now what? Then I declare you bonded for life. In other words, this is another what? That we saw earlier in book 6.
Unbreakable vow.
It's an unbreakable vow. If you're bonded for life, then that kind of implies what? You can't unbond, right? What happens if you do?
Die.
Or someone does.
Yeah.
Tom Riddle married Maripay. Tom Riddle ditched Maripay. What happened to Tom Riddle?
He died.
Okay. Tobias Snape married Eileen Prince. Tobias Snape dumped Eileen Prince. Do we know what happened to Tobias Snape?
Didn't he die?
Isn't it implied?
I think it's kind of implied. I don't think we're actually told. I'd have to go back in book 6 and check that. Here's another one. Who is it? Hagrid's father married Hagrid's mother. I'm assuming, of course, she's full giant, and he's not a giant. Not sure if they had a wizard wedding. I would kind of assume so. What happened to her? She ran off to live with the other giants, kind of a thing. Don't know that that means she dies. But it's implied that this is not something that can be broken. So we kind of have these 3, at least, marriages that end up broken. Why? Might Rowling be suggesting something? And we're going to see in just a few moments, Lupin's going to throw out an idea for Harry. And Harry's going to say, hell no. Okay? I think Rowling is suggesting something about marriage. And it could be me. Actually, one of my students said this first in my previous class, so I'm going to say it's not me. There's a sanctity, a holiness, a hallow, to marriage. Right? And if you break that, problems happen. What happened to J.K. Rowling's first marriage?
Fell apart.
Now, it would be really eerie if we were to find out her first husband died. I mean, that would kind of really send the chills up my back. I don't think that has happened. Right? Anyways, so they get married. That's when Harry talks with Crumb and stuff about this. Okay, Doge shows up, and Harry asks Doge a couple pages later about Dumbledore in Rita Skeeter's interview. Rita Skeeter hinted that Professor Dumbledore was involved in the dark arts when he was young. This is around 150, I think. 151. Don't believe a word of it, says Doge. Not a word, Harry. Let nothing tarnish your memories of Albus Dumbledore. So his memories of Albus Dumbledore, if they're not going to be tarnished, should be what? What tarnishes? Silver, gold. That's why if you have silver, you have to polish it regularly. Just exposure to air makes it tarnish. His memory should be like his polyjuice potion. Pure. All right? Harry looks into Doge's earnest, pained face and felt not reassured, but frustrated. Did Doge really think it was that easy? What's the it that Harry could simply choose not to believe? Or you can put that in the positive, choose to believe. So if he's choosing not to believe, it's choosing not to believe what? The stories about Dumbledore. If he's choosing to believe, it's choosing what? To believe the memories he has. Okay? Knowledge versus belief. This is the first time Harry is kind of going to tell us that he has this question in his mind. It's going to show up. I don't think I've actually written it down, but I think it's 6 or 7 times in the course of the novel. He's going to keep coming back to this. It's kind of like Harry's starting point. His foundation point in this novel is what or whom do I believe versus wanting knowledge and truth. Okay? So, they go on to talk. Auntie Muriel comes in. Mentions about Rita Skeeter and the biography she's written. She drains her goblet and then gets another one. Takes a large gulp of champagne. Why? Rowling is showing us she is Aunt Marge in wizarding dress. Okay? So they talk back and forth, and she says, "We all know you worship Dumbledore. I dare say you'll still think he was a saint, even if it does turn out that he did away with his squib sister." Now, it's interesting that she uses that language of, you'll think he's a saint because that's Christian terminology. As far as we know, there is no Christianity in the Wizarding world. Okay? As far as we know, maybe there is. We do know Sirius was Harry's godfather. So, a chill that had nothing to do with the ice champagne was stealing through Harry's chest. So what's the chill? And what's caused it? And why is it stealing through his chest? Usually when you get cold, where do you get cold first? Extremities. Fingers, nose, ears, toes. Not here. Why? This is your core. This is where all the heat, resides, as it were. But his chilling starts here. The previous book, we had described this love that Harry has for Dumbledore as being ardor. And I talked about that as being this hot love, not passionate, just strong. What's happening?
There's a crack.
What's causing it? Auntie Muriel is pouring cold water on this flame. She's putting it out. How? Yeah, how, not why. What is she giving to Harry that Luna did not give Harry at the end of book 5? Or what is she not giving Harry that Luna did give Harry at the end of book 5? Remember Harry's conversation with Luna? They talk about Luna's mother. They talk about Sirius. She says, it's not like you'll never see him again. She gives him hope. She gives him belief. She gives him faith. Okay? What's Muriel doing?
Giving him reason of doubt, not giving him hope.
What's the opposite of hope? Faith, belief, doubt. She is pouring doubt on Harry. Okay? So, they keep talking. They talk about old history. Ariana, Dumbledore's sister, Dumbledore's mother, how they died, etc., etc. Page 152. Doge, how do you know all this? And she talks about, my mother was friends with Batilda Bagshot. Gossip. Muriel swigged more champagne. The recitation of these old scandals seemed to elate her as much as they horrified Doge. The other day, might not have gotten to this, yeah, pretty sure. Yes, I did, because we did in memoriam. I mentioned celebrity biographies and the author Kitty Kelly. One of the reasons those books sell so well is they make the people who feel them feel good about themselves. Because they kind of think, man, this person I looked up to, they're not all that great. They're kind of like I am. They're kind of a piece of itty, like I am at times. Muriel feels elated how? By lowering Dumbledore to the level of us all. Doge feels just the opposite, because what has happened to his idol? Fell. Harry did not know what to think, what to believe. Notice, thought and belief, they're two different things. He wanted the truth. Harry could hardly believe that Dumbledore would not have intervened if such cruelty was happening inside his own house. He didn't know what to think, what to believe. He wanted the truth. Why? Because he thinks of Jesus' words, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Nope. Harry has no consciousness of that. What does Harry think the truth will do for him? How many of you wake up every morning and wonder if on that day 2 plus 2 still equals 4? Or gravity's not going to work today. No, it's a truth. If it's true today, it was true yesterday, it'll be true tomorrow. It'll always be true. Do you have to? I shouldn't ask that question because in November of 2022, we almost do. Do you have to give assent to that truth? Meaning, do you have to wake up and say, this morning I'm going to believe that 2 plus 2 equals 4? No, because it does. So it doesn't require anything of you. Why does Harry want the truth? Because belief requires what? Work. Faith. Faith requires you have to work at it. Okay? Is it just one time? I believe this, and you never have any doubts whatsoever. It's just, you go on the rest of your life, fat, dumb, and happy. Just, I believe, kind of a thing. Probably not. Okay? So, it finishes, that chapter finishes, with Muriel mentioning Bathilda Bagshot lived in Godric's Hollow, and who else did? The Dumbledore family. And Harry's like, Dumbledore never told me that. He never told me that he might have lived down the street from my parents. That's going to create some problems. The chapter ends with what's specifically happening. Scrimgeour dies because the ministry has fallen. All right? Who becomes the new minister for magic?
Yeah.
No,
It's one of Voldemort's fault that they have.
The one who did the converting. Pious Thickness. Okay? So, chapter Place to Hide. We're going to skip a bunch. They go to Tottenham Court Road. Major thoroughfare in London. You got, from your perspective, think I'm the map. You got Charing Cross Road, which runs essentially north-south. Okay? And Tottenham Court Road, which runs east-west. Okay? They're both major thoroughfares. They intersect in North London. British Museum's over here. The theater district's all kind of down here on Charing Cross and Shaftesbury, etc. Tons of new major ugly skyrises up around that area now. They go into the diner. Hermione mentions Voldemort. Couple show up. Raoul and Dolohov. Harry recognizes them, takes them out, etc. They go off to where?
Grimwald's place.
Number 12, Grimold Place. Okay, the Order of the Phoenix headquarters. Almost said Order of the Ministries headquarters. Okay, page 125. They get there, and Harry's got to go to the bathroom really bad, but he doesn't have to go to the bathroom really bad. He has to go to the bathroom because he feels like he's going to throw up. And he gets there, and boom, this image pops into his mind. Page 175. What's the image? Nope.
Dumbledore?
Mad-Eye's dead. He's dead. He ain't coming back. Nope, not Dumbledore. He sees Voldemort force Draco to torture someone. He says, Draco, give Raoul another taste of our displeasure. Do it, or feel my wrath yourself. And Harry doesn't think, go do it. Torture Voldemort. Put Draco under the thumbscrews. Cruciatus him. No. Harry felt sickened by what he had seen. By the use to which Draco was now being put by Voldemort. Notice, the use to which Draco was now being put. That implies what about Draco?
He's not.
He's not doing it of his own volition, but it's not imperious.
He's not.
He's being forced to. This is coercion, right? This would be called, if he were arrested, he is under duress because it's like Voldemort has a wand to the back of his head. Do it. Okay? And what does Harry feel?
Sympathy.
Sympathy. Pity for Draco. Okay? Chapter 10, Creature's Tale. Third paragraph. The grief that had possessed him since Dumbledore's death felt different now. The accusations he had heard from Muriel at the wedding seemed to have nested in his brain like diseased things, infecting his memories of the wizard he had idolized. So, Doge said, don't let Rita and Muriel taint your memories. Now his memories are infected. And notice the imagery, by the way. The nesting occurs up here, and the diseased things kind of drip. Metaphorically, they will keep dripping until they reach his heart. All right? Which is more dangerous than just reaching his mind. Why hadn't Dumbledore told him? Told him what? Harry, sit down so I can tell you about my long dead sister, who I did nothing to save. Or my mother. Why hadn't he explained? Had Dumbledore actually cared about Harry at all? Or had Harry been nothing more than a tool to be polished and owned, but not trusted, never confided in? In other words, Harry's thinking, I'm not that much different than Draco. Is he wrong or is he right? Jump to the end of this book, and he's
not wrong.
Yeah,
he's not entirely wrong, you could say. Or he's maybe a little bit wrong, but he's mostly right. All right? So, they look around. Harry finds this fragment of a letter from Sirius to his mother. He reads it. He thinks the only thing important in there is what it says about Dumbledore. Okay? We can ask whether or not it is. And he and Ron and Hermione talk. Page 30. Around 183, 184, Harry mentions what Muriel said. Hermione. Harry, do you really think you'll get the truth from a malicious old woman like Muriel or from Rita Skeeter? How can you believe them? You knew Dumbledore. Now notice, Hermione juxtaposes believing these two old hags, my terminology, versus his you knew Dumbledore, his knowledge of Dumbledore. I thought I did. What happened to his knew Dumbledore? K-N-E-W. His knowing Dumbledore. Well, Muriel's words have done what?
Tarnished.
Introduced doubt into what he thought he knew. Okay? It's kind of like, I'm trying to think if this is an apt analogy. Yeah, I think it's kind of like someone who gets caught cheating on his or her spouse. Okay? After a long marriage. The husband gets caught cheating on his wife. The wife would say often what? I thought I knew you. Now she knows something else, about him, so to speak. And what does that I thought I knew you really mean?
You're not the person I thought you were.
I don't know you at all. If you could do this, okay, it introduces the doubt. But you know how much truth there was in everything Rita wrote about you, right? How much did Rita write and how much of it was true? Everything not written in the Quibbler was false. Only the thing written in the Quibbler was true. Why was it true?
She was blackmailed.
Yeah, because Hermione was holding the gun to her head. Notice, a lot of guns being held to heads, okay? Doge is right. How can you let these people tarnish your memories of Dumbledore? He looked away, trying not to betray the resentment he felt. Resentment at who? Resentment at Dumbledore, resentment at Doge, resentment at Hermione. There it was again. This is now like the third time. Choose what to believe. He wanted the truth. Why? Because, again, he doesn't have to do anything with the truth.
It's already there. It's already established.
Look at the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. What does Jefferson not do? He doesn't prove their truth. Why? Because we think they're self-evident. We think they are just naturally true. What if you don't? Then you have to have a discussion in which the one person tries to prove the truth of those things. Okay? Harry doesn't want what? He doesn't want to have to go through the logical gymnastics to arrive at the truth. I mean, in one sense, he really wants what to happen to him with the proverbial truth. Imperious truth. Free. Because you won't have any doubt. Because doubt means, ooh, now I have to decide. Notice, I have to decide. Okay? Choose what to believe. Harry wants knowledge. Harry wants truth. He doesn't want this, and he doesn't want this. He's kind of in the position of Thomas, one of the disciples in the Gospels. You know, after the resurrection, Jesus appears to all the apostles, all the disciples, except for Thomas. The next day, Thomas shows up, and they all tell him, we saw Jesus. We talked to him. We ate fish with him. Cool. And he's like, get out of here. Unless I put my finger through the hole in his hand and my hand in his side, I will not believe. In other words, give me proof. Following Sunday, all the disciples were in that upper room again. Okay? Actually, it's that Sunday when Thomas says that. And he gets a tap on the shoulder. Door's locked. No windows. It's like, sealed chamber. Tap on the shoulder. He turns around and Jesus is like, hey, Thomas, come on. Come on. Put your finger through. Go all. Come on. Oh, it tickles, And Thomas says, my Lord, my God, blessed are you because you have seen and believed. And then Jesus says, but more blessed are those who haven't seen and believed. All right? This also kind of echoes, I think I've made reference to it in here before. Flannery O'Connor's A Good Man is Hard to Find. If you've never read that short story, read it. It's not long. It's like 7 or 8 pages, right? And it's all about a serial murderer who meets up with this family on this road. Their car is broken down, etc. I won't say everything in case you want to read to it. But he has a conversation with this old grandmother, church lady, very prototypical 1950s church lady. At the end, kind of deciding whether or not to kill her. And she's going, pray Jesus, pray Jesus, pray. And he says, yes, and Jesus throwing everything off. What? Jesus said, or we're told, Jesus raised people from the dead. But I wasn't there, so I don't know that it really happened. He's in the exact same boat Harry is. Okay? And because I wasn't there, because I don't know it happened, all he can do is believe. And he says, if what he said, or if what's said about him was true, then there's nothing but to fall down on your face and follow him. Option 1. If he didn't do what was said about him, if he didn't raise the dead, if that's all a lie, then his way of thinking, there's nothing to do but go around and kill everyone you can. Again, because he's a sociopath. Meanness and pleasure, I think, are his words. You get pleasure from meanness. Yeah, Death Eater. Kind of Voldemort, more Death Eater, but that's the whole point. He wasn't there. He wants to see in order to believe. But if he sees, it won't be belief. All right? This is going to come up like 5 or 6 more times. Harry is plagued with what and how to believe. Okay? They go by one of the bedrooms and they read on the door label, do not enter without the express permission of Regulus or tourist blacks. I don't know about you, I was one of 5 kids. My brother and I shared a room, my sister shared a room, but we had a thing on our door, don't enter without permission, and my sisters did, etc. But nobody paid any attention. We're barging in and out. What's Regulus saying? This is my safe space. Okay? And Harry puts together R-A, or Hermione, B, the locket. They know the locket they have isn't the real locket. Oxia locket. Shoot. Not going to be that easy, right? So Hermione says in response to Ron's, how are we going to find it? What does that tell us about Ron? Raised entirely in the wizarding world. You know, magic solves what? All your problems. Hermione, research manually. What else, looking forward, what else do they do manually later on? Choose not to do with magic? Dobby's burial. Why don't they use magic to bury Dobby? Which obviously implies what, for those of you who haven't gotten there yet? Dobby's gonna die. It'll be one of the biggest tearjerker scenes in the book. They use magic to bury Aragog, Hagrid and Slughorn. They get ready to use magic, and Harry says, no, I want to do it properly. Dobby's a fully magical being. Why not, whoop, and he's buried. Why does Harry want to do it manually? Just kind of let that sit. Because it will come out. Part of it's because of what's going to happen while he's doing that. Okay? So, they talk with Creature a lot. Harry doesn't understand some of what Creature says. Ron talks about elf magic and wizarding magic. And Harry finally says, a couple pages before the end of the chapter, I don't understand you, Creature. Because Creature is still kind of serving the Black family. Meaning, the dark side. Voldemort tried to kill you. Regulus died to bring Voldemort down. But you're still happy to betray Sirius to Voldemort? You were happy to go to Narcissa and Bellatrix? Pass information? Hermione's like, Harry, that's not how he thinks. Put yourself, what? In his shoes. How does Creature think? How did the Black family treat Creature?
Like a slave.
Because he was. Okay? Who of those members of the Black family didn't treat him like a slave? Regulus. Okay? He doesn't seem to have explained, but Regulus changed his mind. Meaning, Regulus had been what at one point?
A Death Eater.
Notice, second time we've been told Death Eaters can change. Snape changed. Well, or did he? Okay? Harry starts to say something. Sirius, and Hermione cuts him off. Sirius was horrible to Creature, Harry, and it's no good looking like that. You know it's true. How else does he know it's true? Or, let me put it this way. Why is that ironic? That Sirius was horrible to Creature. What did Sirius tell Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the chapter Padfoot Returns in The Goblet of Fire? Anybody remember that chapter? Hermione's telling them about Barty Crouch and how he treats Winky. And Ron's like, Hermione, give it a break. And he says, no, I think she has the measure of black correctly. You want to take the measure of a man, how's the rest of it go? Watch how he treats his inferiors. Now, he's talking specifically there about Barty Crouch Sr. and Winky, a house elf. What did Dumbledore tell Harry about Sirius at the end of Book 5? Sirius did not like Creature. He didn't hate him. He didn't despise him. But Creature was what for Sirius? He was a reminder of everything he hated about his home. Remember, Sirius ran away at the age of 16. He didn't just run away from home. He ran away from what?
The Black family.
His whole family. Okay? I've said all along, wizards would pay for how they treat house elves. Voldemort did. So did Sirius. And before Harry thinks of replying, he thinks of Dumbledore's conversation about Sears. Just like Frodo thought of Gandalf's conversation about Gollum. And yet now that I do see him, I do pity him. And what does Frodo do? Creature, when you're ready, would you like to sit up? Notice what he's just given Creature.
An option.
Keep going.
Free will.
Power. Free will. The decision is all Creature's. He doesn't have to stay the way he is. Okay? So, they send Creature off to do what? Find Mundungus Fletcher. Because we know Dung is a thief. Okay? Lupin shows up in the Bribe. Let's see, we're going to pick up with around 207, 208. We read about the Muggleborn Registration Commission rounding up Muggleborns. Sound like anything? Okay, it should. As Americans, what should we think it sounds like? Not as Germans.
Japanese.
Oh, the Japanese.
Japanese, World War II. Had a grade school friend. His father was one of those taken to Manzanita Point in California. Ron, people won't let this happen. Really? I wrote up on the board over here last Tuesday, all that is necessary for evil to thrive is for good men to do nothing. Why was it Hitler was able to do what he did? Because good Germans, and I mean that word good literally, good Germans did nothing. Have you noticed what has started happening in China over the last 2 or 3 days?
Protest.
There's a fire in Shanghai on a high rise. The fire brigade couldn't get to the high rise because of the lockdowns. The roads were blocked. 10 people died. People started demonstrating immediately. They've gone from not just demonstrating against lockdowns to wanting to tear the whole thing down. They're demanding Xi Jinping's removal. They're demanding the end of the Communist Chinese Party. And I just saw this morning before I came to my first class, guess what the Communist Party has done? Just like Tiananmen Square in 1989, they've sent in the tanks. I just pray for that those 1.1 billion Chinese will rise up against, the party. Ron thinks this can never happen. Lupin's like, Ron, it is happening. Why? Because people don't want to stick their noses out. What happens when all the power, all the authority, all the propaganda says X, Y, and Z, and you say no to X, Y, and Z?
You can die.
You disappear. You get disappeared. There are tons of real world historical examples. The previous president of China, for example, that I mentioned the other day. So they keep talking, and Lupin throws out an idea. I'll come with you guys. I can help you. Harry, time out. Let me make sure I understand this. So you want to leave Tonks at her parents' house and come away with us. She'll be safe there. Tonks is pregnant, okay? I'm sure my father would have wanted me to stick with you. Harry, no, not so sure. I think you'd want to know why you aren't sticking with your kid. Notice, not sticking with Tonks, sticking with your kid. What's Harry's emphasis on? You're a father now, Remus. You have a responsibility to that child. You don't understand. Explain. I made a mistake. I've regretted it very much ever since. What's the mistake? Having a child with Tonks?
No, he'll get married.
Getting married. What's he essentially really saying? I want a do-over. Can we just have an annulment of that bonded for life? Can we kind of tweak that a bit? Harry, after Lupin goes on quite a bit, My father died trying to protect my mother and me, and you reckon he'd tell you to abandon your kid to go on an adventure? How dare you? You think this is glory? You know, Harry, I think you're feeling a bit of a daredevil. You want to step into Remus's shoes. Sirius's shoes. Why? Because Lupin was, he was like the third wheel. And then you had Peter Pettigrew like the slime that he was. Who got all the glory in this group? Come on. Who did Harry hear the group talking about back at the Three Broomsticks when he overheard the conversation about Sirius Black? James and Sirius. Okay? I'd never have believed this. The man who taught me to fight Dementors. A coward. And Lupin zaps him and then leaves. Ron, that was too much. Harry, that was too much. But Harry thinks. He sees an image through his mind. Sirius falling through the veil. Dumbledore suspended, broken in midair. A flash of green light, his mother's voice. Begging for mercy. ... If there weren't the ... what probably else would we have seen? Cedric? Maybe others? Parents shouldn't leave their kids unless they've got to. What does he mean by got to?
They don't have a choice.
Keep going.
His parents.
They die. That's the only way parents should leave their children. If they die. Could be me. Could just be me. I think Rowling's sticking that knife in her ex-husband and just kind of twisting it, Because that's exactly what he did. Now, she's happily married by this point. I mean, totally happily married. And her husband, Neil, what's his name, is probably even more happily married. Because every time he goes to the bank, cha-ching, cha-ching. Okay? So, here, and I'm going to stop with this. If it makes him go back to Tonks, it'll be worth it. Won't it? Okay? Now, I had hoped to get us up to the chapter of the thief, around 275 or so. But we didn't, but a lot of this other stuff we'll end up skipping. But we'll pick up. For those of you who want to come, you're not required to. We will pick up with the rest of this and go on. Quiz due tomorrow night, okay? Final exam due Sunday night. It's posted already. You can go ahead and have at it. Obviously, you'll have to do it before. One last comment. We're going to meet, for those who want to, December 8th at 10. I have a dentist appointment at 9. They say it only lasts half an hour. So be here at 10, but I might be 5 to 10 minutes late. But be here at 10 in case I'm not. For those of you who are going to come. No requirement. If you don't want to, I understand.